right now. But yeah, I'd like to invite everyone to give a warm welcome to our next speaker, Tomáš Duchek. And I'll let him begin.
One, two. Hi, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. My theme is about the career of concept art and illustration. I will be showing you like my own path through this career. I will talk about what I think works, but of course you should take it with some grain of salt that your path might be very different from mine. So keep that in mind. So I'll just start with some examples of my early work. This is actually like almost after I finished university studies. I decided to really try to get into concept art and illustration, like get a job in this career, because before then actually it didn't even occur to me that that would be possible. So that was a huge idea, because maybe it sounds strange now because we all know about concept art and illustration, but back then it wasn't like a very well-known area that you could earn a living. So this would be like one of those projects with some friends that we started a game, and there were supposed to be a couple of players running around like a Dota, but in third person. But I got really excited about it, so started sketching some stuff for that. And actually, because of the passion that I had for the project, I think that that's why it ended up in my portfolio. This is the portfolio that I'm showing you that I've used for my first job interview for the studio work. And this is all part of the previously mentioned project, the game, which actually didn't go anywhere. We stopped like right before the even production began. This was my only input into the game, and then nothing happened. And yeah, part of the portfolio here is also this cottage, which, you know, it looks a little bit strange in there, but I wanted to apply it to Warhorse Studios in Prague, which was one of the only opportunities for concept artists in Czech Republic. So there was definitely an incentive to really try hard and get them to like my work. And this is one of the approaches that I think is really necessary for most people, that if you have a studio you want to get into, try to look at the style that they are producing, try to look at the projects that they might be developing, and put the stuff that they may like into your portfolio. I also did always enjoy sci-fi and painting these hard surfaces. So just for the sake of variety, I put this in there. And I should have probably mentioned that I studied industrial design at the university, where it's aimed at more of a practical area of life, right? That was mentioned before, that you could produce or think about the toilets or some useful objects, but you also have to think about how they would be, how you would produce those, what materials they are made of, so it is cheap, so it is light, or it is very, very, very useful in every way. So there goes a lot of thinking into industrial design, and that was the career that I felt like, yeah, it felt like it took too much thinking. So I just wanted to get in a little bit of a easier, more fun environment, which is games and movies and concept art. And yeah, I also enjoyed Diablo and these games of Blizzard. So I did some stuff like that, and I like to do some silly stuff, even though you don't see it in my portfolio anymore. It might be because I just am kind of stuck with the style that I've presented myself with, and this is working for me. So just keep producing stuff in the same style, basically, and it's a kind of a daunting task to change the style now. Even though I still do like those silly characters and silly mood. This is my diploma work. So you see that it was kind of a big step from the design part to get into games, but I tried to learn the digital painting by myself and came up with this portfolio for Warhorse Studios, which you see there are these 3D designs that actually are not interesting for the game company, but I think I actually deleted these 3D images. So yeah, and I was lucky enough to get into Warhorse. Yeah, there's way more images than I thought. And if I did not get in Warhorse, I would probably be working as I don't know, a fireman or something. So if you don't know, Warhorse did make Kingdom Come Deliverance, which is a medieval game that really showcases or puts you in the shoes of a medieval person. It's really trying hard to get you as close as possible to the medieval times. So for 5 years I was working there and really kind of was influenced by the medieval atmosphere and clothing and everything from that era. And funny enough, and when I was a little kid, I also drew knights, but with pencil, and I actually couldn't believe my luck that I can earn a living doing this, painting medieval stuff and the knights again. It felt like surreal, actually. I'm just showing a couple of images from the game. There's lots to tell about the development process. These images are here just to illustrate that the concept art is usually about coming up with ideas, but in Warhorse Studios, there was much more stress or much more importance with studying as well and coming up with historically accurate ideas. So here you can see I don't know if you can see it. It's an old map of the region that we were trying to bring to life. This is the first village that we did, Samopeš, and this is a map from I believe 17th century or 18th. So that was the inspiration for the layout of the village, and based on that, we also we put in the houses and worked with the Google Maps here and kind of explored any materials that we had. So I'm just trying to say that you may get a job where you will be first like learning for weeks about the world, about various historic events, and that's all part of the job. This would be like one of my first concepts for the game, which obviously looks not great, but I just wanted to illustrate some of my journey here. And yeah, you can see that there are many considerations for the layout of the village. So at first here I was really put into the environment department, let's say. And I explored this part of concept art first, even though I always was more interested in characters. Right, so actually, yeah, excuse me. We also did reconstruct some castles, which was really exciting because there are some remains of those castles, but really not many information. Maybe illustrations like this exist that are not really looking realistic, but give you some idea. And this is how the castle looks at the moment. It's actually not even accessible. So this task is really fun. You get to think about the level design actually as well, because you have to really make the castle defendable, historically accurate, and also think about the player, how the player will be accessing some areas. So really different way how you can think about the concept art as well. And you also think about what stories there might be happening, and how those buildings will be used for what purposes, and what will be inside of them. And because that was because of the lack of design. We didn't have a design document that was really like specific. We had to come up with a lot of stuff by ourselves. And the last painting of that area that I did actually at the end of my work in Warhorse. Yeah, just to illustrate, we also did trips to nature, and we did some like photo references for our artists. So another completely different part of the job. And yeah, this might be like taking things too far with the research, because this is just a small part that I'm showing you. That there was just way more. But that's just Kingdom Come Deliverance for you. Right. So I think, yeah, there were many areas like this where we did the line art, and you can see that how the area is evolving, which is pretty fun. And think about the interiors as well. So that was probably the majority of the late development, where it was working in those lines and creating assets or setting up the villages and places. And these paintings came actually later, when we were trying to kind of market our department or the game itself. So we were trying to come up with some interesting or nice looking images. And also the prop design or concepts were important. And here, just for a really interesting part, that this is work of Matuš Garay, my colleague, and he worked on this church, Sazova church, and he reconstructed it for a couple of years. He spent a couple of years on this area, so just an amazing example of dedication and patience and energy that was poured into this area. It would probably take us, let's say a couple of minutes or maybe hours to just see all the details here. But I'm just gonna scroll through, and hopefully you get the idea that there's just so much stuff happening and so much research that went into this. Because nowadays, even though there is the church still remaining, there were many alterations to that area. Okay, I'm gonna go a little bit faster. This is how the church looks in the game and how it looks in the real world. Right, so, and then came these like mood boards or mood paintings of the environment, which were really fun. Finally got to do something a little bit more painterly. And because at first we focused on the areas that were going to be highly populated and more interesting, and then we went to the nature and started to beautificate the world. Yeah, so again, these are not my favorite paintings, but I have learned so much in Warhorse Studio, mainly because my friend Simon Gosel, that's the English pronunciation, was working there with me, and we spent so much time learning together. Yeah, and this is like really the last part of the development, which was also the most fun, creating splash screens, and that was the part that really I had the most fun in there. Right, and this would be like one of my last paintings. So that was the Warhorse Studios experience, and you can see really different focus for a character artist or a concept artist. We also did some icons and UI elements, marketing paintings, and support for the 3D artists. So it really gets varied, and usually, from my experience, you get to do what you really like in the studio, unless it's like a big studio where you get really hired for a certain position. You usually get to switch things up and do what you really are interested in. Especially in the smaller studios, I believe those are more flexible. During my time in Warhorse, I started to do my own stuff. Finally found some courage or maybe skill to develop some larger paintings. This was like one of my first attempts here on this astronaut that started a series of this silly guy who is a little bit mental, because even though he is in really dangerous environments, like here, there's something crashing danger, some danger alert or something, but he's just taking selfies. And even when he crashes the ship, he is just taking selfies. So that was super fun, and I just remember that I wanted to continue the series. I was just howling with laughter all the time because he's just, yeah, it's boobs. So that's probably one thing or tip that I could recommend, that working in series or creating paintings that are connected somehow is really helpful. It can give you motivation, and you don't have to think about what I'm gonna paint next. It's just way easier this way. Yeah, it's a friend here. Oh yeah, this one, why it's so small? Yeah, it's just leaning back on the knife. I remember just laughing too much on this one. But I didn't end up having it in my portfolio. Yeah, I'm not happy with the style or how I was definitely unsure about most things. I was just I didn't know what I was doing, but I was just having fun. And yeah, this one is the last, probably, like, cool. Yeah, so this series was super fun, and it kind of kicked me into doing more of those paintings, and eventually I started creating these paintings influenced by or inspired by World of Warcraft, which again had a theme of there was a restriction that I wanted to use the class colors, which for this guy, the paladin, is pink in the game. So I used pink for the background, and it's maybe sounds silly. I think hope you can see it, but it's it should be quite pink. And this one simple thing, this restriction, helped me immensely with creating the painting, and also with light and many decisions. So just this one restriction, and I was off. Then I went to Warrior, who has brown color, but I put some spin on it, maybe with the Orc and brown Druid, and then I went to Death Knight, who is red. And so many things happened for me in these paintings. Even though I spent way too much time on them, I learned a lot. So this was a huge deal for me. I made these paintings during my work in Warhorse, and I posted them at ArtStation and various other social media, and I got some responses or messages from companies and some offers to do some commissions. So after a while, I stopped working full-time at Warhorse, and I switched to part-time and started to work partly freelance. For instance, here for Games Workshop. And you maybe remember the dwarf with the pink background was the reason why I got contacted by Games Workshop, because they were going to do these dwarfs. So they saw I did a dwarf, so they contacted me and wanted something similar for them. Yeah, and also funny thing is that with us in Warhorse Studio, there was Arash Ratkia, an amazing Iranian concept artist, illustrator, just incredible guy, mind-blowing. And he mentioned one day that he would like to work for Games Workshop. And at the time, I had no idea what Games Workshop is. And even though I knew Warhammer, he just told me about his dream. I was like, oh, yeah, cool, that would be nice. And 2 weeks later, I got the invitation to work for them, even though my work, my paintings were way worse than his. So just didn't feel fair, but I had the dwarf in my portfolio. So. And that just shows that it could be also a very lucky moment when someone is looking for a dwarf. You put your painting on our station, and they just bump into you straight away. Then I had also many opportunities to work with other companies. I just picked a couple of images for Magic the Gathering, and those are really cool clients, because our wizards are really cool to work with, because they allow a lot of creative freedom. Usually they have a nice simple briefing, and if you kind of follow the briefing, there's just so many ways you can also still feel free to adjust the image, or go in your own way, and they almost never complain or never want any changes. So that's super cool collaboration. And usually it's just a sketch like this, or 3 sketches, and then a color, rough color, and then the final. So just these 3 steps, no back and forth. Yeah, there was some, yeah, just let me show you again. So the sketch into color rough and into a final, which was a little bit actually in this case changed because of the sky, but other than that, pretty straightforward. For the Games Workshop, here is one of my favorite works that I did, Typhus. And that's like a plague marine or guy. I'm not really playing Magic the Gathering, and I also don't buy figurines, so I'm not really well versed in the world. Yeah, so these opportunities were amazing, and at first I really spent like on this probably 1 week, really painting every detail, and really trying really hard to satisfy the client. And after this, or I'm still obviously doing commissions, but I'm starting now to more focus on my own stuff. By the way, just a hilarious tattoo inspired by my painting. That made my day. So I'm starting to work on my personal stuff now. Sorry. Which is way more calm at the moment, and not as, like violent and focused on warriors and rage and emotions. It's just, relaxing. And I think it's like a natural development. I think Michal here previously talked about the feelings that there's something enticing about the rage and these dark feelings, the horror movies and stuff like that. But hopefully that kind of passes and we can relax at certain age. Maybe I'm getting there. And yeah, the book I mentioned it on the workshop. I'm starting my own project here, where I would like to actually put my own path through life, and some things that I've learned. I want to put into the book. So that would be my path, my career. And I left it here. I just would like to summarize and let this painting sit here and burn in your memory a little bit. So obviously the first key thing for getting a job as a concept artist would be getting your portfolio ready. Portfolio is everything. No art degree is necessary. I don't think art school is something that you need to have. If you are sure you want to do illustration, just go for it. There are plenty of tutorials. You don't need to have a degree. Then if you get any opportunity at first, then you just take it. It's like you get offered to paint a snake lady, and just take it. Because of course you want to do snake ladies. Yeah, at first it just works that way. I think there are many opportunities you get, but you should not or probably can't say no. Just go with what is offered. Nowadays, you can actually look for jobs relatively easy. I think Facebook group like Dungeons and Dragons Fantasy Art is a really cool way to start, because there are opportunities in there, like these little jobs that you can just do for $5 or $20, I don't know, to paint a character for someone. Then you have a Fiverr maybe, and these platforms. And obviously you can also get a job from your relatives and friends and just do anything. Also, I think it's important that you don't overcharge your clients at this point. I think it's natural for most people to be like shy about money, so I think it doesn't matter at this point. You just want to do the work, so just do it. And then you can apply to a studio maybe, and luckily, or with some luck, you get the job. Here again, I think it's necessary to not ask for a high salary, because you just want to get your claws in and start working, and then maybe climb the ladder. But that's actually what I did. I just started working for a really low salary and was really happy with anything. The important part here is not to expect probably to be working on cover art or really interesting things, let's say, like on characters and things like that, because nowadays I think it's all right, but back then, a couple of years, maybe almost a decade ago, it was like if you start a concept art job, you get to paint sand or other textures for like 2 years. And then maybe you can do some character or something. Nowadays, I think it's way more pleasant, but still, you probably don't get to paint characters or really cool stuff that will end up in a game right away. But the studio offers some relatively low stress environment usually, from my experience, and it gives you a stable income. It's like a security, so that's a great way to start. Also, you get to meet people who are more experienced than you and can influence you in many ways. So really, there's this like well of wisdom that you can tap onto. But yeah, and a huge part of the job is communicating with a team and also supporting your team members. So you get to visit some meetings and maybe get inspired by your art director and other colleagues. It can be really a cool place to work in. But after a certain amount of time, the studio can the well of wisdom can kind of dry up. So you might be kind of plateauing. So I think it's a good idea to think about other possibilities, which are the freelance. At least I think most people would prefer the freelance stuff. because it's usually more the salary is bigger, especially if you live in a country where the living costs are relatively low. You get to work for maybe United States company, and the salary is comparable to United States salary. So there is this advantage, definitely. But the freelance stuff could be a little bit more stressful, definitely, because you don't have the stable income. You have to advertise yourself, and no commissions are like granted. If you do a bad job, maybe you lose your client. So it's not really that chill. And it can be actually also difficult to time manage. So that's a completely like new part of the work, because it's so easy to get into working and painting like all day long and doing nothing else, especially if you have a deadline, or especially if you are interested in the project, if you like the painting. And maybe if you're thinking about putting it in your portfolio, you just go at it, and it's super easy to get lost in this process and slowly kind of push all the other social elements maybe in your life kind of aside, and just have your work and do that. At least that happened to me, and kind of trying to get out of this pit. So just keep that in mind. The time management is difficult sometimes. And during the whole process of working in the studio or working on the small jobs or freelancing, it is vital to self-market yourself, or market yourself on social media like Facebook, Instagram, DeviantArt, what else? Behance, or other platforms. It's just like you put your stuff in there and just let it live its own way, because the people or the followers don't come overnight. So just leave your stuff in there, and just starts growing naturally somehow. So that is super important, especially if you want to do some personal stuff later on. It's really helpful to have audience already. And then for me, actually, I didn't mention before, there was the teaching element also. I wanted to explore that part, and ended up teaching at Pilsen University at the faculty of Ladislav Sutnar. And that has been an amazing opportunity for me, because of teaching, I've kind of sorted out for myself so many things. I can't praise it enough. It's just been amazing how much I've grown myself by trying to teach the students the things about digital painting. So obviously, it takes time to get courage to do the teaching or teach other people. So if you get the opportunity, I highly recommend it. Also, I think a super important thing is being patient, because as I mentioned before, the success can be related to luck, and it might be stressful or frustrating to not get noticed, or not have your works appreciated. It's just a long run. So try to be patient about everything, like about the process of painting itself, and also about the learning process, and about the exposure or self-marketing. it all takes a lot of time. And by doing or working these long hours, I think part of not very much discussed topic is health issues connected with the long hours sitting at the computer. I'm not going to show you, but I think it's really important to kind of do something else as well, which is not sitting and watching TV or being at another display. But yeah, I think Simon gave me his metaphor. You need to take care of your brush so you can paint beautiful paintings. So in this metaphor, your body is the brush. So and also a important part is of this career or of doing concept art is that you are not actually creating art, you are bringing someone else's ideas to life. So that can be a kind of a bitter pill to swallow. Your ego must go aside, you know, and you have to stop caring about the end result as much and just work with the client and paint the snake ladies. So, but that may actually work both ways. It can be a kind of a bad thing because sometimes a client wants a change that actually ruins your idea or some element of the painting in your eyes. But it can actually be a dialogue, and you can kind of both enhance the painting or the concept. And it depends on your approach. You can definitely get excited by the communication with your art director or the client and come up with something that is more interesting that you would actually maybe do by yourself. So it's about your approach and how you think about the work. If you think, oh, damn it, I'm painting a snake lady, so it's gonna suck, it's gonna suck. But if you want to really explore the theme and maybe do some cool light on the character and maybe just do the best looking snake lady in the world, it's gonna go somewhere. So yeah, it's the self-motivation and your approach to work is really vital and key here. And I think it goes a long way to kind of keeping this in mind, because it's exhausting, I think, to kind of keep yourself motivated. I hope I'm making sense, but this might be one of those pitfalls of this career, that after a while everything gets looking a little bit like the same and you might get maybe bored, as Michal was saying here. So I think the self-motivation and your approach to work and the push for the quality is really, really vital. Yeah, so thank you very much. If you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
So yeah, if we have any questions for Tomáš, let me know and I'll run the microphone over. Just shoot your hand up if you have any questions. No, I don't have any. Yep, there we go.
Which was the thing that helped you the most to level up?
Sorry, say it again.
Which was the thing that helped you the most to level up? Because I can see like a big change between some of your works. Like there is like super high level up. like between the first ones and then after working in the first company?
Well, what was most difficult for me to level up?
No. The thing that helped you the most to level up. Yeah.
I think that helped me the most. I think it was just going back and forth with Simon. In the studio, we used to spend after work. We just stopped working, but we just stayed in the studio and we kept painting until 10 p.m. And then we went for a tomato soup and just went to do this again the next day. So yeah, this process, and then a couple of tutorials. I believe Glenn Vilpu for anatomy. That was really helpful for me. His head anatomy helped me. And I guess it was a slow process. I'm not sure if I can say there was just this one thing. Excuse me. Yeah.
Do we have any other questions? Yep.
Yeah, I'm curious about the experience working with the Games Workshop. If you can go into detail, like was it good, bad? What were your thoughts?
Oh yeah, it's very similar to working with Wizards. Also very nice collaboration, definitely. British people are, really cool to communicate with. It's just really pleasant. It works the same way as I've shown with Wizards. Also, we do a couple of sketches, send them. They get you some feedback. You do this a couple of times and go to the finish. No hookup or no strings. It's just straightforward. And I have to say, it's just so much more pleasant to work with companies from the Western part of the world, I would say. I had the opportunity to work with Chinese outsourcing companies, and that was really not pleasant at all. It's just probably just a different way of thinking about communication, I guess, or something, but it just doesn't feel like you are respected, or it's just do this, do that, good, bad. Yeah, it's just not pleasant.
Do we have any other hands? Yep, one sec.
Yes, sorry, I forget my question actually. Oh yeah, I know. It was something like you were doing these concept art reconstructions in Warhorse, these amazing drawings of the medieval houses and everything. I would like to ask, what was the most challenging from this experience? The most challenging about this medievalish reconstructive concept art for the game, which is very like a realistic base.
Most well, I guess it was the research. Yeah, there was the research, the first part that is difficult to do because it takes a lot of time and effort, and then you build on that, which admittedly is like, if you don't do the research, obviously the results won't be as good. But there also was, after a while, it's kind of started to be also, I wanted to kind of freshen up those images a little bit, like make them more lively or something. And we had a historian who was who should assure that everything we produced was historically accurate. And she was just really nice person, but really stuck with those historically accurate things, even though she admitted we didn't know that much about the era. So I wanted to do some colors on the house. I just asked her, and it was like, no, we don't know that, so just stick with the plain white houses. I wanted to do some like cloth somewhere and hanging in the wind or something. Oh, no, we don't know about this, so don't do that. Yeah, and yeah, just like this. So it kind of became a little bit boring, and I started to look for the fantasy elements and fantasy worlds again, which nowadays actually are, I'm just like overfed with fantasy, so I'm just going back to realism more. So it's good to find the balance.
Great. Do we have any other questions? No, in that case, can we all put our hands together for Tomáš and say thank you for the lecture?
Thank you.